Hello. Seems like I am live on YouTube. That is beautiful. Let me go live on Instagram as well. Nice. Hello, hello, hello. So I'm live everywhere, right? I might be, I might look a little bit funny. I am live on Instagram and I am live on YouTube. I am trying to figure out how, let's see in past. Give me a moment, guys. I'm just putting the topic, your filters. Awesome sauce. Okay. Pinned comment. Yay. Okay. I got it together on Instagram and I have it together now here on YouTube, right? I have my sparkling water. I have my coffee. Good morning, good morning. Well, good morning where I am at. So today I'm talking about seeing past your filters. That is the lesson for today, and I will tell you why. Um, YouTube looks a little bit dark. Instagram is brighter. I think on a different day I'll have to figure out the lighting and see how that would work. Put the light on, but Instagram is very bright. So I have two cameras here. You'll see me look at this camera, and I would also look at that camera. Right? Let me bring this mic a little bit closer on Instagram, on YouTube. Thank you for waiting for me to set up. Hello, 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 hello. Right. So seeing past your filters. That is the lesson today. Seeing past your filters, and the reason I want to talk about this is that, well, personally, I struggle with it. I struggle with my filters, the things that I don't see, the things that I don't know, the things that I don't understand. But also in the real world, which is my other community, just today we were talking about, or day we had a lesson on lazy losers stay broke. That was an interesting lesson that we had, and I listened to all the three parts before I came live. And the lesson was about competition, being okay with competition. And personally, I've always been scared of competition. I don't want to compete in any realm, right? I always want to be the best. I want to get rich. I want to make the most money, but I am scared of competition, right? So I didn't know that I had that filter of being scared of competition until today. Our professor in the real world gave us a three-part lesson on lazy losers stay broke. And that just blew my mind, right? I never thought that was a thing. Lazy losers stay broke. Now, if you don't know what the real world is Andrew Tate's community, corporate Tate. It's his community and his school. And I have been there for about 9 months now. It has completely changed my world, right? If you're on Instagram, I'm looking down here at YouTube. If you're on YouTube, I'm looking up here on Instagram. So I'll be looking at both of you. So, the real world, the link is in my bio. The real world is an amazing community. It's a paradigm shift community. It's a community that definitely blew my mind because it has changed how I see business, taught me how to edit, be a better woman, believe it or not, listening to corporate Tate, Andrew Tate, regardless of whatever's going on with his life. It's definitely changed my view of the world and how I see money, how I see business, how I see myself as a woman. Listening to him has been very healing for me, the masculine energy within myself, and just understanding how men think, how men see the world. Obviously, his ideas is not for all men, Some people will tell me, oh, you're dark skinned and Andrew Tate is into light skinned women. The lesson, the message, right, is what drew me, the message of what he talks about. For me, it has been healing. Right? So seeing past your filters, let's go a little bit esoteric. African spirituality. I love that. I love that. So when I generally talk about adverse childhood experiences, childhood trauma, low self esteem, seeing yourself as not confident, not worthy, not good enough, right? Personally, these are things that I have never thought about or thought it was a possibility because I always thought I was the shit, believe it or not. I thought I was the shit. I thought I was, this. But when you're able to see past your filters, when you're able to understand that everything you think and everything you believe 80% of the time might not be true, then that gives you the opportunity to sit back and self reflect. And one person that has helped me understand the power of self reflection is Moji Baba. Moji is a Jamaican teacher. He doesn't call himself a teacher because he says the things that he talk about is not even wisdom. It's just reality. It's the real thing, which is true, right? I am part of his community and part of the host of the New York Sangha, which is the New York group. Moji gave me the opportunity to understand what self-reflection is and how sitting back, why I think the think I think the why I think the things that I think, right? He gave me the opportunity to see that because I was never able to see past my filters. If you talk about women or just people who are chaotic, I was one of them. People who are just all about the drama and all about the noise. And I was one of those women. And I didn't even know I was one of those women. I didn't know I was that person. I've always loved chaos, right? And chaos is great if you are able to channel that chaotic energy into something productive, which is something that we are learning right now in the real world. But before that, I had no idea. My chaos was all over the place. My chaos was toxic, basically, in its best definition of what toxic is. That was my chaos. Because I couldn't see. Let's put it that way. There's a saying that some people have eyes, but they cannot see. I had eyes. I have eyes, but I could not see. I couldn't see myself. I couldn't see the people around me. I couldn't see what I was doing. And I could not see why I was having the results that I was having in my life because I couldn't see past my filters. When somebody texts, I'm always looking for the tone of someone. There's another saying, if you're looking for shit, you'll find shit. Whatever you look for, that's what you'll find. Seek and you shall find. You seek the good, you find the good. You seek the bad, you find the bad. If you're digging into your partner's phone, whatever you're looking for, you will find it, even if it's not there. I was that person, right? I was always worried. Why did they say why did they say that? The tone that they say it, right? Why are they? You point the finger. Why are they? You see that there's three pointed back at you. Why are they like that? I was that person because I couldn't see. I thought I was perfect. Trauma will do that to you, right? Because the people that raised me, they themselves acted and spoke and behaved like they were perfect and that everything should be perfect, right? Even though we're having those lessons right now in the real world, right? when it comes to editing videos and going live and talking about things about being perfect. But they also tell us that show your flaws, because that is the way that you can impact other people. But growing up, I thought I was perfect. I thought nothing had to change. Everybody else had to change but me. Everybody else was wrong but me. Everybody else didn't know what they were saying but me. Why? Because that is the way that I was raised, right? And so when I do these lives, I always say that um, even using lip gloss, that is a filter that I had to change, because I grew up with my mom always telling me that you're going to be a prostitute. You're going to get pregnant very soon. So I hated the feminine in me. I couldn't see past that filter, that voice in my head was my mother herself, because she didn't like herself. So I would never use lip gloss. Why? Because I didn't want to look like a prostitute. Can you imagine? And so for a long time, I was more masculine than I was feminine. I did not know that I was masculine. By the way, I am using Perfect Storm collection. The link is in my bio. And that the link is in my bio on Instagram, on YouTube here. The link is in the description box, right? And Perfect Storm collection is about activating the youthful feminine in you. I struggled with that. I couldn't see that what I was thinking, what I was feeling, and how I was behaving was because of the things that my mother told me, that I would grow up to be a prostitute. It's easiest it's easy to say now. It was hard to say. So you watching, you have to look at that in yourself. The things that you don't do, the things you think that you cannot do. Even the idea of saying that this is who I am, I will never change, that is a filter. Why is the filter there? Right? There's a African scholar, a very wise scholar, Maponga. I don't know if I'm saying his name right, Maponga. And he would always say, we don't think in the box. We don't think outside of the box. Burn the damn box. Why? You burn the box, you are able to lift your filter. You're able to see yourself better. So asking the question, I always reference Dr. Joe Dispenza because he changed my life, reading his books, following his teachings, and where he talks about why do you do the things you do? Why do we do the things we do? Because there's always a filter as to why we do the things we do, why we are the way we are, why we dress the way we dress, why we talk the way we talk. The way I talk, speak in English, right? I am from Africa, the Gambia, West Africa, proud of my lineage, proud of my ancestors, love who I am. But for a very long time during my childhood, education was my escape because of the traumas at home. So I would learn and learn and learn. I would read and read and read and read. And because of all the competition of, in communities where when your child speaks perfect English, in Wolof, su sa doom su tubaabe dafa tubaabe niñ ko dee waxee dafa tubaabe, right? If your child is speaking amazing English, that means that the child has made it, even though they are broke as shit. But because the child is speaking perfect English, they've made it. So that's how that mentality, that's how I was raised, right? But I talk the way I talk when it comes to English. I don't try to code switch. I don't believe in code switching. This is how I talk generally with anybody. But I had to immerse myself into education, into reading books. Why? Because it was my escape. Reading was my escape. I could read a thick book in one night only because in my household, when I'm reading, everybody would leave me alone. So whenever I wanted peace, I would pick up a book and start reading. And so I speak the way I speak because school and reading, education was my escape from the pain and hurt that I had and trauma that I had surrounding me. Right. So seeing past your filters is understanding that you are not doing the things you're doing just because. There's a reason why you do the things that you do. Why am I doing these lives? I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I have been quiet for a very long time, and I understand the pain of not speaking my truth. And because I want to create a tribe of people who that have never felt at home. People that whenever everybody is screaming about how wonderful parenthood and their parents and all of that are, they are sitting in the corner like I used to do as a child when our teachers would say, "Who's your role model?" And everybody would say, "My mom, I want to be like my mom," or "My dad, I want to be like my dad." And I am sitting there like, I don't want to be my mom. I don't want my mom's relationships. And I don't want a man that's like my father, even though I love them. But I felt ostracized. I felt like a misfit because everybody is glorifying that. And I'm just there like, ew. I'm not having a good experience to want them to be my role models. So there are people like this, and they don't know that. They don't have communities. So this is why I do the things that I do. So I was able to see past that filter of, okay, I need to speak up. There are people out there who need a voice, somebody speaking to them. Even in African communities, right? If you look up my name on Google, I was controversial in my country, in the Gambia. I was just speaking to a friend yesterday, and he was telling me that your modeling career, at your peak, you were very inspirational. And I'm like, what, really? And he said, yes. I said, well, I thought Gambians hate me or hated me. And he said, why? I told him, because I used to have death threats under my post years ago. And that greatly affected my mental health because of the way that I was raised. I couldn't go past the negativity. I would read all the comments. Now I know better. Now I know better. And I am much stronger to handle the backlash. And I have a community of people who uplift each other, right? But that greatly affected my mental health. That is why I couldn't continue my modeling career, from the death threats, from people telling me the worst of the worst, right? And I was just doing something I enjoy. Did I make mistakes? Of course. I had no direction. I had no one to help me. I was just beginning. The parents that I had, my father's different because he likes anything I do, but my mom herself was telling me being a model is prostitution. For her, everything is prostitution. I don't know if she believed what she was saying. The fact that she believed that I was going to grow up to be a prostitute, I don't know where that idea came from. But all of these greatly affected my mental health. So for years, I had chronic depression, and I had no idea I was depressed until I came across people like Coach Stormy and Andrew Tate. I respect these two people. I am in their communities, right? If you check my bio, you will find the link to the real world, which is Andrew Tate's school. Just listening to him constantly hammering the idea depression is not real. Feeling depressed is real, but depression in the clinical sense is not real. I refuse to believe in depression. I refuse to believe in anything that takes away my power. This is a mantra that I would repeat to myself every day. Every day, I will get up and put my headphones on and play Andrew Tate's videos all day, and I'm just repeating that to myself. And I would get up and I will take a shower and I would get dressed and I would just listen and listen and listen and listen. He had backlash from saying that. But for people who have lived a depressive life for a long time, we know the power of continuously repeating that mantra. And being in his school, I know he wasn't saying that mantra just because he wanted to be rude or he wasn't depressed. It's because he is saying that mantra because he used it and he understood the power of mantras, the power of speaking life into yourself. So now I don't have to say that mantra anymore because wherever I am continuously in my head telling myself, I refuse to believe in depression. I refuse to believe in anything that takes away my power. That's a filter I had to see past, that I was depressed. And I wasn't depressed. Sorry, I had coconut as breakfast. So I am burping coconut. I was depressed mainly because, and another thing they tell us in the school is that depression, I am happy. Yes, right? Say that continuously. I am happy. I am happy. And if you start affirmations, you will feel weird, but just keep going. Just keep going, right? So in the school, they would continuously tell us that depression is an alert system. It is the universe telling you that you are living life incorrectly. Will you listen? I listened. I listened to Cobra Tate and I listened to Coach Stormy. I am in both communities and I'm about to join Grant Cardone's community as well, the university. Because if you grow up with traumatizing voices in your head, that is all you see. Everything you look at is a filter. Right? There's a saying that if you look for red right now where you are, look around and look at anything that's red. Just on my computer, I am noticing that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things that are red here. My table, the pens, looking here. My binder is red. The live button is red. Looking around here, red, 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 red. That's what I see. So if you're looking in life with the filter of the traumatizing voices that you grew up with, that's all you see. I always say that the things that I talk about, not only did I live them, but I studied them. I went to school not to find a job. I went to school to understand myself, to understand my history, to understand my lineage, to understand why I do the things that I do. And that really served me right. Because now I can look at myself and see the progress and the growth that I have made. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if you talk about people who went through a traumatizing life, I like to talk about adverse childhood experiences as well. Because ACEs is a number, is numbers, right? I think 4 or more, that means you went through it. Less than that, you are like in between. There's not much on that list that I haven't experienced. Name a trauma, I've went through it. Or an abuse, I've went through it. Let me tell you a story of one of the, well, it's not the most difficult, but it was the longest traumatizing event that I faced. And that broke me. So at 5 years old, I moved from my auntie's house in our community, wall of community, West Africa, Gambia, Senegal. It's normal that if I have a child, my sister, my cousin, or whoever doesn't have a child in my family, and they want to take care of my child, that's okay. That's normal. So when I was born, my auntie, my mom's sister, she didn't have a child. So I lived with her. I have only good memories by living there. But at 5 years old, I moved from the city, Banjul, to the town, Talending, right? Talending in the Gambia. And I moved in with my mom. That was the beginning of my trauma. Because the way that I was raised with my auntie, I was carefree, I was happy, I was loud, I was all over the place, go out and play, run around, bare feet. The images of African children that you see running around with their clothes torn, being dirty, that's not about poverty. That's the children playing. I was one of those kids, and I loved that childhood. But then moving in with my mom and my grandmother, because something happened in the family, and so we had to change spaces, right? At 5, that was the beginning of my trauma because they wanted to cut all of that short. They did cut all of that short, and that sudden change, my young mind could not wrap around that. Because one, I couldn't play anymore, I couldn't go out anymore, I couldn't have fun anymore. We lived in an apartment complex, and there were a lot of kids in that apartment complex, in the compound, right? We call it compound. I could not play with the kids for some reason, even though the kids are right outside our door. Our doors would always be closed. Now, that was the beginning. And then we moved to a semi village, a developing village, Sanchaba Sulejo. When we moved there, my uncle, my mother's younger brother, moved in with us. So we all lived together. Beautiful home. I didn't know poverty. I had everything I needed at home except love, emotional connection. That's what I didn't have. And believe me, people, having love and emotional connection at home is a whole lot better than having a lot of money, because you can have food, clothes, shelter, everything is set and great for you. But if deep within yourself you're not happy and things are not working for you, that's where the trauma is. And so when my uncle moved in the beginning, we were cool. We were friends. Everything was fine. Because he was the man in the house, I gravitated towards him because I would miss my father, because my father was either traveling on the road, learning. He's a coach, football coach, what America would call soccer. He was a football coach, so he's always on the road. So me seeing that my uncle has moved in with us, wherever he went, I would go. Even if he was going to buy weed, I would go with him. I was the only one who knew 100% that he sold weed in the house. And I knew the places that he went to buy weed. But because I was not a snitch as a child, we became good friends. Now, everything changed. Everything changed. And these are the type of men that I would attract, whom in the beginning, I was their sunshine and rainbow. And then they'll switch to the devil, to the beast. So he switched. And I can tell you the most painful memories were that if I turn around and our eyes meet, and maybe that day he didn't smoke, or he's broke, he has no weed, that's a whooping. That's a beating, right? You will beat me up for hours. As a child, I'm saying like 12 years, 13 years. My lack of self-worth and some of the things that I didn't understand came from that. So I was always on survival mode, and all my filters were the fact that I always have to be on guard, especially around men. Especially around men, I always had to be on guard. At any point, they're going to leave, right? At any point, I'm looking at, will they put on their hands on me? Because if they do, I'm going to, because that's what I was used to, and this didn't go on just for months or 1 year. No, this went on for 2 years, 3 years, 4, 5. I can't remember when it stopped. The one person that really helped me out was my grandmother, God rest her soul. She taught me how to ignore. To this day, my cutoff and ignore game is strong, right? Because this lady, my grandmother, taught me how to just ignore this man, my uncle, my mother's younger brother. Yes, darling. Yes, darling. I'm telling you, real thing, right? And even what my grandmother taught me about him made him worse, because he thought my grandmother was putting me over him, right? But he liked my mother because my mother would not stand up to him. And so this is why I have this vision of creating a home for people who never felt at home. So me ignoring him really made it worse for him, because what he would do was, when if he wants to provoke me, narcissists and manipulators do this. When you ignore them, they dialed it up just to make sure that they can get you. And he would do that. He would do things to make me mad. And I was a child. A lot of things did not make me mad. Plus, there was nothing he did that made me mad. I was fine going to get weed with him. I actually loved it. I wasn't smoking as a child. He will not make me smoke. But just the journey of me riding my bicycle, I had this beautiful, powerful, red bumper bike that my father bought me. So I would use the bike and I would go with him. He'll be walking and I'll be on the bike, and the sand and the dust and the forest and the trees, the green. I loved it. I enjoyed it. But for him, I don't know. I think that, and this happens a lot with a lot of men. When a man has no power, or when a man feels that they have no power, they will either look at the weakest person or they will take out their power on women, which is why healing in our Black African communities is so important, right? It is about time that we heal our childhood traumas. The other day, I posted something on Twitter. I don't know if I do this on my account, if what is the name, YouTube will still see me. But I posted something about childhood traumas, and I want to read it for you. And it said, symptoms of childhood trauma. And I'm telling you, every single bullet point that I read, I have experienced. Self-worth is attached to external validation. External validation is a filter, because nobody can validate you enough more than you can validate yourself, right? And if you're joining me now, when I look down, I'm looking at YouTube. When I look up, I'm looking at Instagram. Yeah, baby, lo buga. I don't know. Settle fale. I'm not charge of neka fale. Right. When I look down, I'm looking at YouTube, and when I look up, I'm looking at Instagram. And this is a documentation of my healing journey. Is the documentation also of my journey in the real world, and also Girl Hold My Hand. So external validation is a filter. I used to find it difficult to dress up without looking and worrying about how people felt about the way I look. I would go crazy when somebody say, "Oh, you look so good," and I'm just like, "Ooh." And if nobody comments about my look, oh my, that would destroy me that day, because I would feel like, oh, nobody's looking at me, nobody's talking about my dress. Did I dress very well? I would be so, oh, I need to light my uh, sage, get that energy away. I would be so self-conscious about why people are not commenting about my look and my dress, and I took so much time to get myself together. Now I am a different person, right? I can tell you that years ago, I will not sit here talking to you looking like this. Not with this. I'm growing my locks, by the way. I have baby locks. That's why I cover my head, not like this. I'll have to put on makeup and everything has to be perfect. My hair, it will drive me crazy. External validation. The next one, find self in abusive and toxic adult relationship. Like I said, that was my middle name. Toxicity was my middle name. Everything that I did was toxic. How I thought about myself, how I thought about people, how I saw the world, everything was toxic. So if you constantly are in toxic relationships, or in your relationship that you're not loved, or your idea of love, you're not seeing it in the relationships that you get yourself into, because you get yourself into those relationships, then look back in your childhood. I was talking about this when I used to do my podcast, which I might go back to figure out how to do it. My podcast on the women's app, which is called Peanut. I hope they hear this. I would love for them to sponsor me. I love that app. On Peanut, and it's a women's app, and I would do a podcast every week because I was healing and I needed the women to help me, to talk to me. But at that point, I didn't know that I knew the things that I knew. I ended up being the one to help the women. But most women will come on and will talk about their relationships, how they don't see their partners, or their partners are putting their hands on them, or their partners manipulate them, or that they themselves feel crazy in the relationship because they cannot understand what's going on, because they're giving this man all their love, but nothing is being reciprocated. I can never say that word. And it just blew my mind how so many men and women get into these relationships. And okay, okay, let me rephrase. It doesn't blow my mind, because toxic relationships are exciting, and I'm talking from experience. Toxic relationships are exciting. They will get your juices going, because everything is happening at the same time, right? So these women, myself included, we were addicted to that toxicity, but we didn't know that we were addicted to the toxicity. When the man shows you love one day, and then the next day is a whole drama and chaos, and then we are looking forward to that next day, that he gives us that dose, that hit of love and joy. That isn't a form of addiction. Addiction is not just the drugs, hard drugs that we take. Toxicity is a drug. I am on live, girl. Toxicity is a drug as well. And some of us are addicted to it, and we don't know that we're addicted to it. In toxic relationships, that sex is amazing. This is one of the things that gets us stuck, both men and women, because it's toxic. Everything is exciting. Every single aspect of toxic relationships is exciting. Some women, Nene, pick that. It is hit in the computer, baby girl. Sorry. It's okay. Damal sinig bi. Damal sinig bi nga harma wala nga talk. Wala nga yobulo si biti. Right? Some women during the podcast would say that, oh, they don't want to leave because this is the best sex that they have ever had, that this man has given them. I have dated someone and I told him that, oh, it's amazing. And when I wanted to leave, when I was ready to walk away, because I knew, okay, there's something that's not right here, the way that he wanted to keep me stuck in the relationship was to tell me, but I am the best sex you ever had. And I'm like, no, 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 that's not why I am with you. But at that point, I was waking up and I was understanding that, okay, this is not what I want and this doesn't feel right. There is something that's not right. And he would tell me, oh, nobody wants a woman with a child. And I'm like, honey, I would rather stay alone than be unhappy. But as a woman or as a man, you have to get that point to be able to see that. For years, I didn't see it. My own mother is still in the most toxic marriage that I have ever experienced in my life. When people say that Black love is liberation, I think something is missing in that. Healthy, uplifting Black love is the liberation of our communities. I ran away from the African community, from the Black community. I mean, I hated myself, right? People say, oh, this person doesn't like Black people. No, it's not that you don't like Black people, it's that you hate yourself. I hated myself. I did not like who I was before. And the reason that I didn't like who I was before is because I was not surrounded by anybody who liked or loved themselves as they are. When you see somebody and they say, oh, they love white men or they love white women, dig deeper. There's a trauma in there. I went for years thinking that I had to run away from Black men. Why? Because I was running away from myself. Because all my traumatizing experiences, insert Tina Turner, I consider her as an ancestor. Because when I hear her story, child, I understand. I went through it. Trauma from the family, trauma from the Black men in your life. I don't hate Black men. I love Black men. I mean, I'm from a Black man, right? The ancestors that I look up to, from Shango to Ogun to Obatala, Black men. But if you go through the trauma, that makes you run away. And what you're running away from is not the Black men. You're running away from yourself. Because from a very long time, you've been told how worthless you are. So we go through life looking for healthy relationships. So I thought I needed a different race, even though race is a social construct. My professor used to say race is a social construct, but it is a powerful social construct, right? I dated a white man. Why? Because I was running away from myself. I dated um, mostly white men and Spanish speaking Puerto Rican, Dominican. Why? Because I wanted to experience something that's not traumatizing. That is what I wanted to experience. But later on, I had to see the filter, that the filter wasn't the people around me. The filter wasn't the men that I was in with. No pun intended. But the filter was that I was in so much pain and hurt that I was running away from everything that reminded me of myself and who I used to be. And that involves people that look like me. That involves anything that is a part of my culture, because I could not see that it wasn't my culture that was toxic. It was the way that I was taught these things, right? That's a topic that I can go deeper into in another video. Let's go back to the next one. Let me drink my coffee. Oh, the next bullet point is people pleasing, symptoms of childhood trauma, right? Self-worth is attached to external validation. Find self in abusive and toxic adult relationships. People pleasing. I am drinking my coffee. I'm drinking a special coffee. And I'm drinking Delgado coffee. I'm drinking here. I'm drinking Delgado coffee, and you can find the link in my bio. It is a dietary supplement. I drink coffee anyway, but I also take healthy supplement, right? So I like to involve that. I drink regular coffee with some herbal supplements, some herbal powders that helps with everything, overall nutrition and overall well-being of the body. But my coffee today is special because our coach Stormy, talked about how one of the ladies, one of the rich girls, tried a formula, and that's adding Delgado coffee, which is a supplement, with NRG. Now, NRG is an energy supplement. I don't drink energy drinks because it's not good for your mind, it's not good for your body. They are not healthy, right? But this, it doesn't give you the jitters. NRG, it doesn't give you the jitters. The jitteries, you're not jittery. I don't crash when I drink NRG. And as you can see, this is me in an everyday life. Well, when I used to be in toxic relationships and toxic environments, my filter and my facade was that I had to be this person that was like, "Wah!" Because whenever I'm quiet, from my mother to when I started modeling with my cousin, when I started modeling with my cousin when I first came to New York City, when we go to the one incident that I remember, we were at Couture Fashion Week. Couture Fashion Week was the second biggest fashion week in New York City after New York Fashion Week, right? And I have opened and closed with so many big designers at Couture Fashion Week. So my first time going to the auditions at Couture Fashion Week, the girls were all over the place, and it was beautiful and it was nice. My cousin was there. I, on the other hand, was at the corner with my book, reading, sitting down quietly. And by doing that, I had some of the best designers in that fashion show just come to me and say, "Hi, will you work for me?" And I'm like, "Oh, sure." Right? But my cousin, seeing that, would tell me, "You're just sitting down by yourself, being quiet. You need to have energy. You need to do this. You need to do that." So me, people pleasing, being who I am and wanting to please everybody and wanting everybody to love me. I don't want anybody to hate me because I grew up with people around me who hated me. So I had this facade, this filter, this mask of projecting an extroverted person. And I am not an extrovert at all. Right now in the real world, in Andrew Tate's school, they are teaching me how to speak with energy. because I'm at the point where I'm like, no, 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 I'm not doing the filters, I'm not doing the facade. This is me. The people who connect and relate to my energy will listen to me. And that's why with the products that I am selling now, I use them. And so NRG is one of my favorites because it just helps me maintain my energy, because this is my energy. Bye bye, Dolly. Thank you for staying, and we'll connect. I hope to see you Saturday, and also hope that maybe we can have coffee or something soon. Nice to meet you. Always. So what the rich girls did was that they take a capsule of NRG. Mine is finished, so I'm waiting for my new, how to call it, new supply. So they take a capsule of NRG. See, I used it all, and then mix it with the coffee. I forgot to do the video when I was making my coffee. But what I can do next time when I have my new supply, I'll do it on camera so you see how they do it. I saw Coach Stormy do it yesterday, so I wanted to try it today because I woke up exhausted. We're in this new wave in TLC and in Garho My Hand, because there's a new product out in the market, a dietary supplement detox tea, which is the watermelon tea. You can also find that in the link in my bio. And the combination of the two, I drink strong coffee. I am also a huge fan of espresso shots, right? And I do not drink coffee to stay up or to have energy. I drink coffee simply because I love coffee. I love the smell. I want to own my own coffee shop. And now that I have Delgada, it makes it easy to have a coffee place and then get my inventory of Delgado coffee, right? So I generally love coffee. Now, this just helps me maintain my energy. Let's talk about people pleasing. Should I look up what people pleasing is? The definition of people pleasing? People pleasing. People pleasing behavior. Beautiful. Should I do helpline? What sites do you look for to explain things for you? Psych Center. I like psychology. I have a degree in psychology. How to stop being a people pleaser. Let's do psychology today. What is people pleasing? And thank you to the person who wrote this article. People pleasing. Oh, people pleasers unite. I like that topic. People pleasers unite, but only if it works for you and don't mind. And you don't mind very much. Let me read that again. I need to take my time when I'm reading. The coffee is working. The NRG is working. People pleasers unite, but only if it works for you and you don't mind very much. And people pleaser is defined as a people pleaser is a person who has an emotional need to please others often and at the expense of his or her own needs or desires. Should I read that again? People pleasers are people who have an emotional need to please others, often at the expense of their own needs or desires. The underlying urge to make others happy and to be positively regarded is quite natural. We are social beings, and part of that unspoken contract is paying attention to others' needs and feelings, right? So, being empathetic, is the saying empaths. If you see yourself as an empath and you've never taken the healing journey or understanding what it entails to be an empath, tongue twist. If you are an empath, I have to speak slower. Okay, let me say it again. If you are an empath, and you identify as an empath, and you've never taken the healing journey of understanding yourself and why you are an empath, it's about time you understand why. You do a research on it. Nene, demasinate. It's about time you understand why you are an empath, right? Because being being an empath is not being sympathetic. It's having compassion for people. Having a healthy dose and compassion is okay. But wanting to please everyone like the person that I used to be, that's the toxic side. Right? Should I read more? Those who fall into the trap of people pleasing tend to dive too deeply into the spirit of being in tune with others' needs. People pleasing. It's toxic. I was raised by a people pleaser. I didn't know. She didn't know. Nobody knew. Right? So, me growing up and not really caring if I agreed at someone or what people were doing or what was happening, I was ostracized because I can remember perfectly as a child when I was not a people pleaser. So, one aspect of healing is going back to your childhood, is understanding who you were, right? That aspect of healing helps you. Beyonce's song, Find Your Way Back. Find your way back, which is the wave and the era that we are in total life changes, as well as what is it called? Girl, hold my hand. Finding your way back. Find your way back. Find your way back. Go back. If you've never done healing, if you've never had therapy, and having therapy is not just any therapist or just online therapy. I don't know how that is. I haven't taken the ones that's online. My therapist was from my college. Shout out to Brooklyn College, right? My therapist from there. We did the online thing, but mostly because of the pandemic. If you've never taken any of these steps, go back to your childhood. The person you remember. If you always say, oh, when I was a child, I was happy, go back to that happy state and look at what changed. What changed? People pleasing will destroy your life. People pleasing will make you not see who you are. People pleasing will make you forget who you are. Because, like the article said, those who fall into the trap of people pleasing tend to dive too deeply into the spirit of being in tune with others' needs. I was that person and I didn't know that I was that person. Because, and this is not a cultural thing, right? What's the cultural aspect of it is that my community in Africa, I think most parts of Africa, people are so generous that it's very rare to find a homeless person. And imagine we're considered a third world. Why are we considered a third world? Because it's a predominantly melanated continent. So it's rare to find somebody homeless or somebody hungry. Because wherever you go, you'll always find somebody who's willing to feed you, to house you, to help you. So we help each other most times, right? So that it's good. But I grew up in a way that I was constantly told, what are people going to think about you? How are people going to feel? What will people say if you do that? Who do you think you are? These are the things that I constantly heard, right? Why would you wear that? Why would you go out like that? Look at people, listen to people. How will people see you? People pleasing. And that goes back to seeking external validation from anywhere, online, in person, looking at how people feel about you, how many likes you have. Oh, that used to drive me crazy. How many likes I have? Do people like the way I dress? How could I make people love me? I would go above and beyond so that everybody in my circle of influence love and like me. Now, I'm not saying that is bad. It is okay to want people to love and like you. That's an innate thing in human beings. But to the point of destroying your mental health, that's the toxic part. And I was that person. Let's go on to the next bullet point of symptoms of childhood trauma. Not being able to connect to your own needs. People pleasing explains it, right? If you look at the list that we went through so far, self worth is attached to external validation. Find self in abusive and toxic adult relationships. People pleasing, not being able to connect to your own needs. So there's a disconnect. I explained that in one of my videos, and how that disconnect happens, right? Let me give you an example. You are beautiful just the way you are. Hey, new friend. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to connect with you. Yes, now I can say that about myself. Now I see myself that way because I know I have grown by the fact that I can sit here looking at this camera, no makeup, nothing, just my comfortable, cool, introverted, weird self. And I'm happy about it. But there was a time that was difficult. I started this live not long ago. And I'm not new to social media. I'm not new to any of this. I have made live videos and deleted them. I've made live videos and put them on private. Why? Because I felt, no, why? Because I didn't like myself. I hated myself. So if you're watching this and you relate to what I'm saying, I'm telling you, there is a way out. There is a way out. Because if I can sit here and talk to you about these issues, trust me, you can make it out of whatever is hurting you right now. Like I said before, I had chronic depression and anxiety nearly all better part of my life. Better part of my life. That's how I live. But let me explain to you something about not being able to connect to your own needs. And this is from my own experience that I went through, right? So as an African from the Gambia, West Africa, I love every aspect of myself and my culture. I love it. I would not change anything about it. So when I speak about this, I'm not saying that the culture is toxic. I am saying that the way that I was raised, this is what I experienced, right? So in my household, and if you relate to this, comment in the chat. Tell me your experience. I'll read it and we'll have a conversation about it. In my experience and the way that I was raised, one of the reasons I wasn't able to connect to my needs, and if you're just joining me now, I'm looking up and down because I have two cameras, YouTube here, Instagram there. So wherever I look, I'm looking at a different camera. So the way I was raised, right? In our home, Our feelings and emotions and needs were so merged. Is merged the word? They were so merged together. We were all so absorbed in each other's lives, right? My mother, especially. My father is different. See, everything about my father is different. Shout out to Ibu Fai. He is an exceptional man. There's not much I can say about him except that he's emotionally unavailable. So I always date men who are emotionally unavailable. Right? He wasn't that person. But when it comes to everyone else that I lived with, our needs, our emotions, our wants, and everything were always, always, always like this. There was no space for me to think or for anybody else to think. There were no space for me as a human being, as an individual, to have that autonomy of my thoughts, of my ideas, of who I was, to be able to see myself. There's a saying, especially here in the American curriculum, well, in the African Black American curriculum, which is educating the whole self, right? So I couldn't see my whole self. Everything that I could see were the needs, the wants, the ideas of everybody else around me. So I couldn't see or understand the things I want, because if I say that I want something, they would tell me, no, you didn't want that. If you don't know what gaslighting it is, or the power of gaslighting, look it up. If it happens to you in your childhood, or if you're experiencing it right now in your relationship, look back into your childhood. So my entire childhood, I was gaslit to believe that what I knew to be true was not true. Right now, knowing what I know, if people ask me, um, if you could go back to your childhood, what would you tell yourself? I would tell my younger child that she was right, and everything she believed was true, and what she knew to be true was true. I would tell her, don't lose yourself in the chaos, because you are aware, you're awake. Children are aware and they are awake. Children come with a clean slate. So, whatever indoctrination, whatever programming, or however a child is acting right now, that was put into them. It's not the child. You see a prostitute, there's a reason they are. They didn't just wake up and say, oh, I like to be a prostitute. No, there's something. You see somebody acting up, you see somebody running around with guns, you see somebody, there's a reason they are the way that they are. So not being able to connect to your own needs, right? So I couldn't connect with my own needs, because my entire life I have been told that the things that I wanted, the things that I knew to be true, my ideas and my well-being wasn't true. It wasn't right. What my parents said, what my parents did, how my parents acted was how I had to act, was what I had to do. I believed it. I mean, why not? If you're raised in a Chinese family and everybody's speaking Chinese, you're going to speak Chinese. I was raised in a Wolof community. I spoke Wolof. I speak Wolof, right? Our lineage goes into the cereal culture and tribe. But at home, nobody spoke cereal, so I don't speak cereal. So if you are constantly asking people, what do you think? What should I do? Who should I be? How should I speak? How do I love myself? If you feel that you're not connected to yourself, there's trauma in there from your childhood. Now I am okay with being the person that will trigger people, because I think that they are people who need to be spoken to. Right? There are some people who don't want to change. There are some people who don't want to be better. But there are some people who just don't know. And the reason that they are the way that they are is because they don't know. And if they knew, they would do better. So I speak to the hearts and the minds of those people. Oh, YouTube, I just realized that the my mic was low. Oh, wow, I have talked for 1 hour so far. Well, thank you, Ashra Goddess. Shira7 for showing me that you can speak for 2-3 hours and it will still be a good content. Yeah. So, one of the reasons you are not able to connect to yourself right now is a childhood trauma. There's somebody somewhere back in your life who either manipulated you or gaslit you, and you are not sure of who you are. You cannot connect to yourself and your own needs. You cannot see what you want. I was that person. Right? So, being able to decipher or discern where somebody starts and where somebody ends, where somebody's ideas, feelings, emotions start, and you as a person who's with them, where your ideas, feelings, and emotions end. Right? If somebody is being negative to you, don't take it personal. Don't take anything personally. Is another part. Is another one of the 4 agreements. Read that book as well. It'll give you accountability. You will be able to take responsibility of your life, but it will also explain probably a lot of the things that you were feeling. Because I always took everything personally. So let's break it down this way. So if somebody is being rude to you, or somebody is being negative to you, right? Somebody is why you should not take it personally is because you can see where they start and where they end. You can see who they are and who you are, right? There's something maybe you do and that they don't like. That doesn't mean you have to do it. You don't have to do that. If you like it, it's your life. It has nothing to do with them. The same way, however somebody acts, I have to look that up. It's coming to mind. Don't think, don't take anything personally. Let me see the 4 agreements. There was an image of it where it explains it. Aha, there's one of them. Don't take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be a victim of needless suffering. Let me read that again. That's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful agreement. I need to speak a little bit slower to be able to pronounce my words. Don't take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. The opinions and actions of others. When you are immune, when you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering, right? And that is being able to connect to your own needs. A lot of people think that having boundaries, see, I thought that too. So when I say a lot of people, I'm talking to myself. Everything I'm saying, I'm talking to myself. I always thought that having boundaries is for other people and it's about other people. If you remember, the first point in symptoms of childhood trauma is self-worth is attached to external validation. So I'm always thinking of the other. But I came to learn, right, that boundaries are for us. Boundaries are for yourself. Boundaries are for you, so you don't lose your mind. You're not putting up a boundary so somebody doesn't be who they are. You're putting up a boundary so you can control yourself, which is the only thing that you can control. You can't control anybody else. If we can control other people, I would control them. Of course, when you're able to control yourself, then obviously there's a possibility you can control the thinking, the ideas of somebody else. Indoctrination in our community. One has to be self aware, good or bad, self aware of their terribleness or self aware of their goodness to be able to impact that into someone else. I love this bottle. It makes me feel rich. I'm not sponsored by the company, but if the company is seeing this, I love your bottle. And if you sponsor me, I'll 100% talk about your bottle. Makes me feel rich. It's so beautiful and classy, right? I'll actually love to be sponsored by the company because I drink this so much. So boundaries for other is for you, not for other people, not what other people do, not what other people say, not who others are. Boundaries are for you to be your best self. Let's go to the next bullet point. I mentioned that I am an introvert and I don't talk a lot, even though I am a talkative. But when I talk beyond the talking I can do, I can feel it in my nose. Difficulty forming secure attachment, healthy attachments. Being obsessed in your work, being obsessed in being better, being obsessed in who you are, being obsessed in being a better person is good to an extent. But if you're not able to attach to other people healthily, which goes back to the boundaries, healthy attachment, secure attachment. And if you don't know what that means, please look it up. I think there's a book called the five love languages. Yeah, it talks about attachments, but also there are a lot of mental health counselors and as well as therapists who are on YouTube who can tell you about this. There's two of the ladies that I watch, but I can't remember their names. Secure attachments. You have to be able to know yourself, to be aware of yourself, to be aware of what's happening with you, for you to be able or to understand how to attach to other people, your partner, people around you in a healthy way where you don't lose yourself, especially if you lose yourself easily. I lose myself easily, so I know what I'm talking about. The next one, difficulty asking for help. Difficulty asking for help. Again, when I say these things, I'm also talking to myself. I was this person. When I say these things, I'm not just speaking to you, right? This is a dialogue, but it's also a monologue. It's a dialogue because you're listening. It's a monologue because I'm also talking to myself. Difficulty asking for help. I used to advocate for this when I was in BMCC, Borough of Manhattan Community College. I used to talk about these things. And over there, I am very grateful to have met Cecilia. Cecilia is the director. As we speak, as I'm recording this on July 11th, 2023. 7/11. 7/11. Wait a minute. What is 7/11? 7/11 angel number. 7/11. That's a thing. I believe in that. 7/11. Harmony is a symbol from the number meaning 7/11. Always have hope and believe in all that comes your way. 7/11 ask you to get rid of your fears as they are holding you back. You are truly potential. Push your limits to move forward and achieve success. Your positive thoughts and pure intentions will attract optimistic vibrations from the universe. 7/11. Interestingly, I was talking about Cecilia. Cecilia is amazing. Um, she was the director of the Early Childhood Center in in Borough of Manhattan Community College. I like to put my hand here. I do that unconsciously without knowing that my hand is on my butt. So, um, what was the point that I was in? I was talking, asking for help. Difficulty asking for help. This I should make a whole video different, right? To talk about this, to talk about difficulty asking for help. I had that difficulty. I could not ask for help. Hey, King Cam. I had difficulty asking for help. And that's trauma. Believe me when I tell you that when you are not able to ask for help, when it is difficult to ask for help, to say, I need your help, can you help me? There's something that happened in your past and in your childhood that stop you from asking for help. Boundaries. Let me pin this, right? There's something that's stopping you from asking for help. There's something that's stopping you from loving yourself enough to understand, like the pastors will talk about destiny helpers, right? I'm from a Muslim background, but like I always say, I've delved into different realms of spirituality as well as religion. And I've listened to pastors talk about destiny helpers, and that's a real thing. At least I believe in it because I saw them before I really actually knew what they are. And then I understood what it is. Let me tell you my story of not being able to ask for help, and you can see if you relate to it, if it make any sense to you. Growing up, right, I would always watch, and I always talk about growing up because that's where the trauma is, childhood traumas. All right, let me put this down a little. People, I have changed. I've greatly changed because the way I'm speaking now, I can tell you that it was difficult to speak like this because I thought everybody was judging me because I grew up being judged. So I'm always afraid of being judged. But let's talk about not being able to ask for help. why you might not be able to ask for help. But let's start with why I was not able to ask for help. It's seen as weakness. If you relate to that or you've heard that in your family or surroundings, tell me in the comments. Asking for help when I was growing up is seen as weakness. Nobody around me would ask for help. I would not even hear somebody say, I need help or I need your help. So if you are watching this and you see that you cannot ask for help, you don't want to ask for help. Maybe you don't want people to know that you don't have money. Maybe you don't want people to know that you're poor. You don't have food to eat, right? Maybe there's a question you have, and in class, you can't ask the question because maybe when you were in school before and you asked a question, everybody laughed at you. Maybe you feel stupid. Or growing up, people tell you you were stupid. If you ask for help, you're stupid. If you ask for help, something's wrong with you. There is a reason why you are not able to ask for help. So for me, nobody was asking for help. How I grew up, nobody talked about asking for help. And the most difficult part was that, I was expected to know everything, even though I didn't know what I was doing. So because of that expectation, I was embarrassed. I was ashamed of myself when I needed help. I was ashamed, not shy. There's a difference between being shy and being completely ashamed of who you are and your thoughts and your ideas. I was ashamed of myself to ask somebody, can you help me with money? Can you help me with food? Can you help me with ideas? Can you help me with thoughts? Can you help me with feedback? Which is why, during my modeling days, when I get any form of criticism from people, I will break completely down. And there are people like that who cannot, for the life of them, take any form of criticism. Any form, well, let's put it constructive criticism, because it doesn't matter who you are, you will have somebody who doesn't like you. Oh, this shakes on YouTube. I'm sorry, my table. I'm just realizing it now. And I like to sit like this. I'll figure it out eventually. There are people, and I was one of those people, who cannot take constructive criticism. I could not take constructive criticism. I could not take feedback. Okay, now in the real world is different because they are constantly hammering in our mind and in our brain that if you want your profile to be better, if you want your work to be better, if you want to grow as an influencer, as a content creator in whatever field that you are in, real estate, you name it, you need feedback. You need people that who've been in the game, who've done things for a long time better than you, or even before you were born. People who understand the game to give you feedback and tell you what you can change. I did not know this. So I would always run away from feedback. I mean, even the beginning of my time in the real world, I wouldn't ask for feedback because I was ashamed of myself. Telling people I need help, or for somebody to tell me you need to take care of this, or you need to work on this, or you need to do better at this. To this day, just the other day, somebody in the real world, we were exchanging links, and me sending them my link, I could feel my body getting warm and hot because I didn't want them to give me the feedback that I needed to change something with my Beacons AI link, that it wasn't perfect. So I now is different. I do not ask for help. So I used to advocate that when I was in BMCC, because I was in the student government. So wherever I spoke and whenever people ask me, about my experience, what I would do better and things like that, I would always say, ask for help. If you're somebody who has never asked for help, if you don't know how to ask for help, if you're not good at asking for help, ask for help, because we all need help. But the person who raised me would never ask for help. She was a person who believed that she can do everything. She was a person who wanted to do everything by herself. That's my mother. And I always say that she'll probably one day hear what I'm saying, and I'm not saying these things to blame her. I'm not saying these things because I don't love her. I'm not saying these things because I hate her. I am saying these things, one, because I need to speak. Two, right, because there's somebody out there who can relate to the things that I am saying. And somebody needs to speak out to help people, for us to help each other in our communities. So being embarrassed or ashamed of yourself when you ask for help has something to do with the way that you were raised, ideas you were given, things that you were told about people, about the way that you see yourself, right? Looking for external validation. Let me go back. Your self-worth, being in abusive relationship, coming from an abusive family, not being able to connect with your needs, not being able to establish secure and healthy attachments. All of these is a part of not being able to ask for help, and not being able to take feedback or to look into feedback or to understand feedback, not being able to understand that people hating you is okay, that you are fine, you will not die. I was that person. I wanted everybody to love me. I wanted everybody to love what I was doing. I wanted everybody to be stoked and excited about everything that I did. People pleasing. I needed help. I was asking for help, but I didn't know that the way that I was acting and the things that I was doing, I was actually asking for help. I thought it was normal, that I was perfect and I was normal, and anybody who was not like me, you know, needed to change. So everybody had to change except me. Gibran calls that insanity. I have my, can you see it? Let's see. Oh yeah, looks good here. That's my Gambian tattoo. Instagram, if you can see it, whenever you go to YouTube, you'll see how much I love. See, I have the Gambia and I have Africa here. Very much proud of my culture and where I came from. But these are issues that we need to speak about in the community. Let's talk about the next bullet point, which I explained, which is difficulty setting boundaries. If you have difficulty setting boundaries, why? Because you people please, because you think that if you tell somebody no, or if you take care of yourself, that something is wrong with you. Trauma, childhood trauma, because I had that. I had difficulty setting boundaries. I could not for the life of me say no to anybody. I want to please everyone. You ask for something, I can do it. You ask for something, I can take care of it. You need a mother, I'll be your mother. You need food, I'll cook for you. Whatever you need, I'll do it. And I'll forget myself in the process. I'll forget my own needs in the process, because I grew up watching my own mother do the same thing, take care of everybody except the most important people, which was me and my sister and our home. So you need to look back in your childhood. If you are not able to set boundaries, where did that come from? Where did that come from? See, I used to think that I had to be so down to earth. I had to be so humble, right? And I was, and everybody would walk over me. My ideas, my thought, I will give it away, which is fine. Boundaries, though, I would give it away. I would do everything for everyone and forget myself in the process until I have a mental breakdown. And I wouldn't know why I was having mental breakdowns. And when I call my mom for help, she has no idea because she's used to that. That is who she is. I constantly say this. We are the new ancestors. We are the new wave, right? And we have to change the narrative. We have to break the cycle. We have to speak about these things because in our communities, we don't talk about it. There is not much of a difference between African communities on the continent and American communities here in America. The trauma is real, right? One of my coaches now, who's Coach Stormy, when she started to speak up, there was a whole lot of noise about her. Personally, I couldn't understand because I was thinking, somebody that looks like me is speaking about these things. I have always known about this. For years, I was on a spiritual journey. I am in my 9th year of delving into everything: Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, African spirituality. But I did not see any Black woman, any African woman talk about this, the trauma inside of our families, until I came across Coach Stormy. Why? Because Coach Stormy, I think, is a combination of African American, Caribbean. Now she is tapping into her African ancestry. And why we don't talk about this? Because we push everything under the rug, right? There's this mentality or this belief that you don't put the family's business out there. Some things have to be confidential. Some things have to remain in the family. But in order for us to break the generational curses and raise a healthier generation of Black men and Black women who engage in healthy Black love, who love themselves, love their community, and love their culture, in our present day, we have to talk about the traumatic experiences that we went through with our families. And it doesn't mean that we are sellouts. It doesn't mean that we hate ourselves or we hate our families. It means that we have a bigger vision. We are seeing further than just now. We are seeing 50 years, 100 years to come. Right? Before I forget the topic. Setting boundaries. I could not say no. There's a saying that no is a complete sentence of its own. Child, I would say no and explain all the reasons why I cannot do what you tell me to do or what you want me to do. Over explaining. That's how I grew up because I never felt enough. I always felt crazy because it didn't matter what was going on. If my mom wanted something or something was going on, I had to explain everything. There's a money trauma. And a part of my money trauma is that growing up, if I ask my mom for money, My father's different, right? Even if I don't ask him for money, he would call me and say, "Do you need some money?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah." And I'll go meet him and he'll give me money. My mother, on the other hand, if I ask her, say for $5, say $5, say Gambian dollar, say is absolutely nothing. But at that time when I was growing up, it's something. If I ask her for $5, say, I have to explain what I was going to do with each $1, say each $1. I had to explain what I was going to buy, what I'm going to do with the change, why I was buying what I was buying, why I needed money, right? I was a hustler as a child. So my lunch money, I'll always put it together, save it, piggy bank. I couldn't save anymore because whenever my mom saw my piggy bank or that I had money or I bought something, oh, is a rain of questions. Who gave you money? Where did you get that money? Are you prostituting yourself? Are you out there, men giving you money? Are you sleeping with men for money? Guys, I'm saying before I even saw my period, these things were going on. So there's a trauma in there as well. If you are not able to set boundaries, if you are so humble and just so down to earth, there's nothing wrong with being down to earth and being humble. A lot of things is being said by Oprah Winfrey, but there's something that I heard her say that drastically changed my perspective. It was a paradigm shift for me. She said that for a long time in her career, people would always tell her, "Who do you think you are? You're full of yourself." I have heard that my entire life. When my family moved from the town to the semi village in Sanchaba, semi because it was a village and they haven't done much yet. And then when we moved in after that, they turned it into this gorgeous town, natural, beautiful town with fruits, vegetables, trees, sand, beautiful place. But when we moved there in our neighborhood, because I'm from a middle income family and we had this huge, beautiful home, I would go out to try to play with friends and other people. And I always get told that, "Who do you think you are? You think because you live in the house you could be." And I wasn't trying to be anybody. I was so traumatized. I was people pleasing. I went to my neighbor's home not because I just wanted to play with the kids, but because wanted to run away from the pain and the hurt that was at home. But when I hear people say, "Who do you think you are?" I'll just go down the rabbit hole. But then I heard Oprah say she felt the same way. And at some point, for her, it was just like, "Yeah, I am full of myself. And I am okay with being full of myself." And I'm like, oh, somebody can live like that. Where you are. So, oh, she says it this way. "I am so full of myself, my cup run it over. And I can feel your cup." That's powerful. I am so full of myself that my cup run it over and I can fill up your cup. And that's the point that I am at. I think I am so full of me and not in a braggadocious way. I am so full of me that I can sit here and talk for 1 hour, 45 minutes about a few bullet points on trauma. And I'm getting to the point of really embracing myself in that way, embracing who I am, right? Not letting people walk over me, being able to set healthy boundaries and understanding that just the word no is enough, is a statement, is an answer. I don't need to over explain and tell you why I cannot do what you want me to do. And look into your life. If you're not able, and YouTube, I'm looking at Instagram, I'm looking at YouTube. If you are not able to set boundaries, if being humble and being down to earth, is making you dig a hole in the earth and get in that hole because everybody's walking all over you, figure out where that came from. Humility is amazing and it's beautiful, but it can be destructive if your humbleness does not have a boundary. This was me. I was this person. So humble, so down to earth, always looking for the underdogs and misfits. I still do, but in a healthy way. And the reason that I speak and talk about the things that I talk about is to uplift people that has been ostracized. But I am not killing myself in the process anymore. Jim Rohn talks about how when he started his sales career and he had his team, he his vision was he would do anything to help people. My alarm is on Instagram. Let me stop it. He would do anything to change people. He would die trying. And he said that, well, he died trying. Why? Because only the person who's seeking will find. Only the person who's ready to change will change. Only the person who wants to change will change. We have two more. Fear of abandonment. Fear of abandonment. Let's summarize and go back to the point. Symptoms of childhood trauma. Self-worth is attached to external validation. Everybody has to tell you how good you are before you believe your worth. You cannot charge more money because low self-esteem. You think if I charge $5,000, oh my God, who's going to pay that? I'm about to join a private group of Grant Cardones, and how much does it cost? $5,000. Find self in abusive and toxic adult relationships. Was your childhood toxic? Were your parents toxic? Did you watch toxicity growing up? Did you grow up inside a toxic environment? Right? People pleasing. And whenever I talk about toxicity, toxic relationships, and family trauma and all of that, I always want to say that Black love is not liberation. Healthy, uplifting Black love is liberation. Because I am watching right now my mother in Black love, and she is destroyed. So it's not any Black love. And this is a difficult topic for me to talk about because I have dated every race, not every race, that's a lie. But I have gone out of the Black community because I hated myself. I was running away from me because of what I have seen, right? So I personally advocate for healthy, uplifting, healing Black love, not just any. Hi, baby girl. Oh, yeah, that's a girl. Oh, hello, Crystal. I advocate for healthy, uplifting, healing Black love, African love. This is what we need in our community, right? So to go back. Symptoms of childhood trauma. Self-worth is attached to external validation. Find self in abusive and toxic adult relationships. People pleasing. Not being able to connect to your own needs. Difficulty forming secure attachments. Difficulty asking for help. Difficulty setting boundaries. No sound? No sound? No sound on Instagram? You can't hear me? Oh my God, that's terrible. I've been talking for a very long time. Ah. Can you hear me now? No? Oh, Lord have mercy. I don't know. On YouTube, can somebody tell me if they can hear me? Because Instagram said they cannot hear me. Please give me a moment and I'll continue where I was. Let me just check the sound on Instagram. Because I don't know what happened. Oh my God, my people. I was talking for a long time. We hear. Okay, you hear in on YouTube. Oh, thank you so much. Hi, Instagram. Can you hear me now? I am so sorry. Can you hear me now? Can you hear the sound? If you can hear me, is yes. Oh, okay, great. So all of it are going. Oh my God. Thank you, Brandy. YouTube. Thank you, Crystal. Instagram. So Instagram might have missed so much of it. But if you're there, I mean, I have it here on the YouTube. The sound is a much better there. I don't know what happened. And I was summarizing the topic that I was talking about, which is symptoms of childhood trauma. So let me go back to summarize it for people who were not hearing the summary on Instagram. So symptoms of childhood trauma. Like I always say, this is a dialogue, but it's also a monologue. Everything that I talk about is not against anybody, not against my family, not against being black, not against being African. I lived it. Not only did I live it, I studied it for 4 years in school, just immersed in understanding why I do the things I do and why I am the way that I am. I am not blaming anybody at all. I take full responsibility of my life because now I understand that my thoughts, my ideas, I create my life. I am a creator, right? Everybody is. We are that powerful. The way we think, the way we see ourselves is what create the life that we live right now. If you didn't know, you didn't know. But once you see, you cannot unsee it. Symptoms of childhood trauma. Self worth is attached to external validation. I was that person. If people don't tell me how I look or how I am or that I am beautiful, I am great, and I am dead generally. Find self in abusive and toxic adult relationships. Look back to your childhood. What was your parents' relationship? How were they? How did they act around you? How did they raise you? If you're a woman, what is your relationship with your father and your mother? If you're a man, what was your relationship with your father and your mother? How did they raise you? What are the things that they told you? What did they say was a man and what did they say was a woman? Right? How do you see men? How do you see women? What are the ideas in your head? Because the general topic of this life today is seeing past our filters. People pleasing. Do you want everybody to love you? Do you want everybody to love you? Do you feel like you cannot be criticized and you cannot have people who don't like you? If you look at anybody, Buddha, Jesus, Black Jesus, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, all of them had haters. The saints, the whatever you call them, have haters. There's so many people who don't even like God or believe in God, believe in the Ori, Oludumare, you name it, Allah. So it is natural for people not to like us. I would go into deep depression when I knew that people didn't like me. So you have to look at that in your life. How do you feel when somebody criticizes you or think that you are not all that and you are not worthy? Because people will think that. But how do you feel about it? Right? Don't take things personally is an agreement. Should I read that again? Don't take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering. I suffered terribly because of this. Not being able to connect to your own needs. My word was instilled in me very young. What people think of my word is not my business. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Lisa Nichols, no sound again? Girl, I don't know what is happening. You should come to YouTube. Find me on YouTube, Oracle's Place. Find me there. Find me there. I don't know what's happening. Maybe I should close. I'm going to close down Instagram. Find me on YouTube, Oracle's Place. My picture's there. I am gorgeous with my afro, sitting like that, all beautiful. Find me there because this is not working. Oracle's Place. Oracle, if you remember the Matrix, Gloria Foster. Oh, you can't hear me. Look at me. I am so interested. Oracle's Place. Okay, I'm going to end it here. Okay, so I'll just stick to YouTube because I don't know what's happening with Instagram. My earpiece is not working, but here I have a mic. People please, what was it no, not being able to connect to your own needs. Not being able to connect to your own needs. Can you connect to your needs? Do you know what you need? Do you know what you want? Do you know who you are? Do you need to ask people what you need to wear, what you need to eat? How do you feel about what you're doing? Can you connect, greatly connect, and know your needs, not just what you want, but your own needs, your everyday needs? Of course, the moment you know that, you know your purpose in life. Do you know what your purpose in life is? Do you know who you are? Can you connect? Or when you get in a toxic environment and or in any environment, are you so absorbed in everybody's feelings and emotions to the point that you cannot see yourself? Right? Can you connect to your needs? Difficulty forming secure attachments, it goes back to connecting to your own needs. When you have difficulty forming secure attachments, that means that goes back to the point that I need to explain, which is fear of abandonment. Somewhere, someplace in your childhood, in your life, something happened. What was that? When did that start? Go back, go back, Find your way back. Listen to Beyonce's song. Find your way back. Difficulty asking for help. Do you think that if you ask for help, you're less than? Do you think that if you ask for help, people will look down upon you? Do you think that, needing money, asking for money, if you're in sales like me, always been in sales, never could ask for the sale, That's why right now I am in Grant Cardone's university and getting guidance from him and the lessons, and about to join his private group, because I completely have difficulty asking for the sale, asking for money, asking for help. Because growing up, I couldn't ask for help. I could not for the life of me say I needed something or I needed help, because I was expected to know everything as a child before I even saw my period as a child. What happened to you? Actually, that's a book. What happened to you? And Oprah says that Oprah, 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 I like to call her Oprah, says that it's not about um what, how did she put it? It's not about who you are, or it's not what's wrong with you. It's about what happened to you. If you see somebody acting up in our communities, especially wherever you are, as long as you look like me, whatever is happening in your community, or you have somebody who you just cannot understand, it's not about what is wrong with them. It's about what happened to them. Difficulty asking for help, difficulty setting boundaries. Do you think that when you say no to people, something's wrong with you? And that goes back to people pleasing. Do you think that you need to be everything for everybody except yourself, like my mother would do? One of the reasons I do not enjoy African events, from naming ceremonies and stuff, which are beautiful, beautiful. I used to love them as a child. But one of the reasons that I grew out of loving them was because there were times that we will need the money. I would need stuff for school, money for school. They might be asking us for some books. We might have events coming up. And I wanted to dress like my friends, dress differently, be with my friends. And my mom would not give me that money. Why? Because maybe somebody else, people pleasing, somebody else has a naming ceremony and she is named either, it's called Ndayale as the mother, or Force Njeke, I think that's like the auntie or something. She is named that. So she takes all her money and give it to those people pleasing, not being able to set boundaries. Give it to them instead of taking care of our needs as people at home, us, her children. So if you have difficulty setting boundaries, what did you watch at home growing up? And the bullet point that I'm about to explain is fear of abandonment. Fear of abandonment. In my own experience and how it happened to me, is that I would always expect people to leave. When I come across a new friend, when I have a new boyfriend, fiance, I was married before. And if you know me, you know that I was married to the best vocalist in the Gambia, Jalimadi Kanute. You can look him up. Amazing vocalist. Born with it. Born with it. But even when we got married, I was always expecting that at any point he was going to leave. Friends, they are going to leave. I would meet somebody and think, oh, we just became friends. I wonder when they are going to leave me. Fear of abandonment. And I would do everything under the sun to keep them. But at that point, I didn't know that everything is for a reason or for a season. Some people come in your life and leave. Not everybody stays in your life, because not everybody is supposed to stay. People come into your life to teach you something. So if you're afraid of people leaving you, when I did my podcast in the women's app, that was something that I noticed, that most of the ladies We are scared shitless of leaving their partners, even though they were in toxic relationships. Forget the podcast. My own mother is afraid of leaving her marriage, of being a better woman, of elevating, of taking care of herself. Fear of abandonment. What are people going to think if I leave this marriage, if I get a divorce? If this happened, I failed. Do you fear that? Do you fear change? I feared change because no one around me was changing. In my last video, I talked about how I was growing, my mind was growing beyond even my own mother and, in a way, my own father. But I didn't know that it was that way because nobody was changing around me. Everybody is still the same. So I always felt that I was crazy to think differently, to want to change the way I dress, to want to change my mentality and who I was. Fearing that my mother's not going to love me, people are going to leave me, friends are going to leave me, everybody's going to leave me. Fear of abandonment. Now is different. And the difference is I cut off my family. And when I did that, that's when I just went, fuck it. My African American literature professor, whenever we read poems and literature that has cuss words, and I put my hand to read it after I'm done, he would always say, just by the way you read it, I can tell that's not your personality. But I cuss. That's when I had to say that. And even just seeing the title on the book, The Art of Not Giving a Fuck. The Art of Not Giving a Fuck. I didn't have to read that book. Just the title did something to me. And by letting go of my parents and everybody, that's when I was able to embody that energy of like, listen, I cannot do this anymore. The last one, nothing, absolutely nothing feels enough. You don't feel enough. Nothing feels enough. You don't feel enough. My entire life, I never felt enough. I mentioned my ex-husband. We separated. Why did we separate? I thought I was crazy and I thought he didn't want me and all of that. But I came to realize that my own mother had something to do with it. Can you imagine? Because nothing was ever enough for her. Nothing was enough for her. You know, she had this idea of who us, her kids, are supposed to be, who she is supposed to be, who a man is supposed to be, who a woman is supposed to be. And so that's all I knew. That's all I believed. So nothing was enough. I could never tell why things were not enough for me. So if you don't feel enough, if you think nothing is enough, if you think everybody has to change but yourself, if you feel deep within yourself that there's something missing, there's just something missing. You date somebody today and you get bored and you leave them. You go to any place and you feel like things should be better. Always, there's always something wrong with somebody. You always see the worst in somebody. You don't feel enough. Go back. Find your way back. Go back to your childhood. Go back to the way you were raised. Go back to the things that you were told to see why things don't feel enough. For me, even cleaning my home wasn't enough. Nowhere I lived was enough. I always felt that I needed to move somewhere else, do something else, do this for 3 months, and I need to change. No consistency. No focus. Things were not enough. Nothing was enough because I have never felt enough in myself. Because the people who raised me did not feel enough. So nothing was enough for them. No one was enough for them. In one of my videos, I talked about how, as a child, I used to, keyword, I used to have healthy relationships with good men. But those men were never enough for my mother, even my ex husband. And I didn't know that she told him something that broke our marriage until very, very recently. He told me, was like, you were crazy back then. And I knew if I told you that, that would be an issue between you and your mom. And he's right, right? Nothing is ever enough for her. Nothing I did as a child was enough. Nothing I did as a child was enough. The narrative of go to school, have a degree, get married, have a child, go to work, TikTok, die. In America is get a white picket fence. In Africa is, or at least in my community and the way that I was raised, the mentality is go to Europe, go to school, have a degree, get married, be American. Tubabe, like we call it, or Kana. You know, Kana is the swag of African Americans. It's a huge thing. If you come with the swag of an African American, you are American. So if you don't get all of those, you are not enough. If you've never leave the country, you are not enough. So there are different aspects, right? Here I've seen it in the Caribbean, African American communities where people who decide going to school might not for them. There's no trade schools for them, or their family sees them as less than. Why? Because they are not doctors and lawyers and all these accolades that are absolutely nothing. You see it in the Indian communities. Who did that? Jay Shetty. I heard Jay Shetty talk about this, that in his community, you are a doctor or a lawyer or a failure. Mine too. You're either a doctor, a lawyer, or a failure. One of the reasons why nothing I did was enough for my mom was because she wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer. And I'm like, I don't want to be that. That's not what I wanted to be. I did not even see myself doing that. But the white coat and the lawyer's garment, I don't know how you call it, with the fake hair, especially in Africa, the European definition of being a lawyer, you could see them wearing that blonde fake wig, whatever it's the name is called. If you know the name, please put it in the chat for me. If you don't have those things, and if you're not wearing those things, you're not taking pictures with these things, you are a failure. So I believe, and the way that my mother used to talk to me, everything that I did was seen as being a failure. So when you don't feel enough within yourself, there's a reason why you don't feel enough. It's not just a normal feeling. It's a different feeling than wanting to be better, than wanting to grow, wanting to be somebody, wanting to change your life and your mindset. It's different. That feeling of not being enough. That feeling of not being enough is painful. It's it's here. It's in your gut feeling. It's draining. It's like a vampire. It sucks the life out of you. It drains you. Perfectionism. If you don't know what perfectionism is, look it up. Look it up and read about it. I can do a quick perfectionism. Let's see if I can find a quote or an image of it. Some harmful effects of perfectionism. This is a website that I really like, which is called Choosing Therapy. Some harmful effects of perfectionism: higher levels of anxiety and depression, increased risk of suicide. I was suicidal for years, didn't even know I was suicidal. Eating disorders and poor body image. I had that. Impaired performance and lowered goal achievement, lower resilience to challenges and adversity, difficulty forming close, trusting relationships, right? If you go back to symptoms of childhood trauma, there is difficulty forming secure attachments, perfectionism, hypersensitivity to criticism and judgment. I've talked about this. Poor lifestyle choices, toxic relationships, toxic friend, just in love with toxicity. And don't get me wrong, I have loved toxicity my entire life. Toxicity is delicious. Toxicity is fun, it's exciting. It will kill you. Lower overall levels of life satisfaction. Nothing satisfies you. Everything is painful, it hurts. It's difficult. Look back into it. You know, these are the things that we need to do if we want to break the generational causes, if we want to be better, do better, because these things are real. And somebody has to come out to talk about it for people to know that this is real. I have went through that. For me, there has been a lot of teachers that people know that helped me understand that these are the things that I was going through, right? But two of the communities that I have decided to join, and if you look at the description box, you will find the links there. Because not only am I just being an affiliate marketer, and let's put it that way because that's what I am, or being a network marketer because of them, but because these communities and these people talk about these issues for us to heal from them. And these two people are Coach Stormy Nicole Wellington. I greatly respect that woman. She is the first Black woman that I came across who is raw in her delivery of her life experiences and the things that we need to do to break the generational curses, to create better families, better Black love, better, to be better. She's the first Black woman that I heard talk about these issues. And so I am in her private group. Don't mind my tongue twist. I'm tired. It has been 2 hours, 17 minutes. Not only am I in her private group, but even the products that we consume right now in that group are to help us with our mind, our mental health. Healthy supplement, like one of the coffee that I'm drinking, which is the Delgado coffee. You can find it in my bio, in the description box. I talk to Instagram a lot. And the other person who I have heard go deep into the mind of the man, of the male, even though, of course, his ideas and his views and how he was raised is not for everybody, because we all live in different worlds. One earth, different worlds. Our mind is different worlds. But I was able to tap into his world, and that's Cobra Tate. Of course, he is geared towards another community, but Tate's ideas and just what it means to be a man, and me understanding that I have been with toxic men. I have been with losers because I was a loser. I have been with toxic men because I was toxic. I have been with men who wanted me to be their mother because I have never known how it felt to have a mother. And so I am part of these communities because they change my life. And of course, I am creating communities inside of those communities If you check my links, you will see it because I'm able to do that. They are letting us do that, create our circle of influence, bring in the people who relate to us. But say you don't want to be in those communities, you don't want to be with corporate, you don't want to be in the real world, you don't want to be with Stormy Wellington, you don't want to be a part of my team in Total Life Changes, you don't want to be in Girl Hold My Hand. Find you a community that you relate to, people that speak to your soul, not people who speak to your insecurities, not people who trigger you so you can give them what they want, but people who speak to the deepest aspect of you, people who see the best in you. There are so many different communities. There's Lisa Nichols. I have been in her community. I have taken 2 of her classes, her courses. Amazing. Look her up. Moji doesn't sell anything except whatever is on his website. He doesn't even promote, but he would teach you. I am part of the community. I don't have any link of his community because we're not selling. You have to relate enough to his teachings to be part of his communities. Look him up. Moji Baba. Wherever you live, there's a sangha, there's a community there that can help you. Sadhguru is another one, right? African spirituality, high priestesses, babaleos. Find them. Queen Po. Queen Po is African American, I think from the Galagichi. She has her own community. I joined there for some time, but I needed to do something else, so I had to leave. Find your people. Find a community. It is very important. I am speaking from personal experience. I am speaking from personal experience. And also, you can change communities. It was difficult for me. It was difficult for me. It's still very difficult for me to really embrace change. Because whenever I am in a community and I want to leave, I always feel like I owe the person something. No, you owe nobody nothing. The same way, nobody owes you nothing. It's up to you. It's your life. It's your mind. So find a community of people that speak to your soul, that see the person that you can be, that see you. They see you. Now you're broke. You're a brokey, but your mind is not broke. But you have a community of people who see the best in you, who tell you that, oh, do this, do that. Why? Because in 2 years, in 5 years, your talents are going to blow up. Find those people, not the people who tell you, why are you doing that? Why are you like that? You don't know who you are. You are too full of yourself. You have to be full of yourself. Oprah Winfrey said, right? When people tell her she is full of herself, she would say, and I'm going to close with this and maybe read one card. Let me see one. I think this one is calling me, which is How to Love Yourself. Let's do How to Love Yourself by Louis Hay. Louis Hay's teachings is another thing to look into. Louis Hay, How to Love Yourself. We'll do those cards. You know, one of the things that really changed my life and my perspective and how I began to saw myself and how I began to move was hearing Oprah Winfrey saying that when at first when people told her she was full of herself, it will break her down. But then eventually when people tell her that, she would say, yes, I am so full of myself and my cup runneth over, to the point I can feel your own cup. And I had to start moving like that. Who do you think you are? Like when I get dressed in the community that I am, Of course, in America, Africans are considered exotic, especially if you're an African from the continent. They always say we have a different air of being. Obviously, we're from a different part of the world. But dressing up has always been an issue because I'm always like, ooh, I stand out so much. I don't want to be full of myself. But now I am so full of myself. My cup runneth over to the point I can feel your cup. Let's take one card and close for the day. Ladies and gentlemen, I spoke for 2 hours 25 minutes. I am so full of myself. I can speak for 2 hours 25 minutes and feel your cup. 3 cards came out, and I'll read all 3 of them. It's 12:39. I'm still drinking my coffee. It's cold. The first one, and the cards are front and back. The first one, I relax and enjoy. Oh, let's start here. Everything I need comes to me in the perfect time. I relax and enjoy life. I know that whatever I need to know is revealed to me in the perfect time and space sequence. So let me read that again. Everything I need comes to me in the perfect time. I relax and enjoy life. I know that whatever I need to know is revealed to me in the perfect time and space sequence. That's the first card. The second one, oh, this is beautiful. I forgive myself for any wrongdoing. I forgive myself for any wrongdoing. I no longer judge or let me burp. I no longer judge or criticize myself. I am free to love who I am. I forgive myself for any wrongdoing. I no longer judge or criticize myself. I am free to love who I am. And then the last card, and we're done for the day. 2 hours, 30 minutes, we're getting there. I trust and know that all is well in my world. Divine right action is guiding me. Every moment of the day, I know that whatever the outcome is, it is perfect for me and everyone concerned. I'll read it again. I trust and know that all is well in my world. Divine right action is guiding me every moment of the day. I know that whatever the outcome is, it is perfect for me and everyone involved. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you. It's 2:28. Should I round it up to 2:30? I want to give thanks, and I know she doesn't do this. And that's Ashra Goddess. What's Shira 7? Because watching her has also changed something in me. Just believing in myself that I can be an introvert. I can be just feminine. I can just be myself. I don't need a whole lot of energy to be online because I believe that that's what I would do. But I would watch her go hours, 4 hours, just herself, quiet. Like, hey guys, okay. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, so I went to the store and then I saw this guy and I'm just like, man, look at that. That's beautiful. That's amazing. And I love that. And so I want to say thank you to her for being who she is. Everybody that I've mentioned in this life, everybody that has impacted my life, be they alive or dead. Thank you so much for being yourself. I am here today because you are who you are. And I am going to be who I am for somebody else. Bye bye.